The Galactic Confederation's transmission crackled through every communication device on Earth, its cold, metallic voice resonating in millions of homes, offices, and public spaces. Humans of Terra, heed our words. We are the Vorsith, speak heirs for the Galactic Confederation. Your species has been deemed unworthy of joining our ranks. Your propensity for violence, your fragmented societies, and your primitive technologies make you a liability to galactic peace. Admiral Eloan Thrace clenched her fists, her knuckles turning white as she listened from the Pentagon's war room. Around her, military leaders from nations across the globe sat in stunned silence. The alien voice continued. You have 2 solar cycles to dismantle all military installations, surrender your weapons of mass destruction, and submit to Confederation rule. Failure to comply will result in immediate extermination. Bullshit. General Kazuo Ryanosuk slammed his palm on the table. They can't just waltz in and dash. Quiet. Eloan hissed, her icy blue eyes fixed on the hollow display. This is not a negotiation. This is not an invitation for diplomacy. This is your only warning. 2 solar cycles. Choose wisely. The transmission cut off, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. For a moment, no one spoke. Then, like a dam bursting, the room erupted into chaos. We can't possibly comply. But how can we fight an interstellar power? This has to be some kind of sick joke. Enough! Eloan's voice cut through the din like a plasma blade. All eyes turned to her. We've been preparing for this possibility for decades. It's time to activate Project Prometheus. General Anika Volkov, her weathered face a mask of concern, leaned forward. Eloan, you can't be serious. That project is purely theoretical. We have no idea if it'll even dash. It's our only shot, Eloan interrupted. Unless any of you have a better idea for taking on an alien armada? Silence fell once more. I thought not, Eloan continued, her voice softening slightly. Look, I know it's a long shot, but humanity has always thrived when pushed to the brink. It's time we show these Vorsith what we're really capable of. She tapped a series of commands into her wrist computer, and a holographic display sprang to life in the center of the table. It showed a massive orbital structure bristling with strange, angular protrusions. Ladies and gentlemen, meet humanity's last hope, the Prometheus Array. Dr. Zane Kadir, if you would. A slender man with salt and pepper hair stood up, his dark eyes gleaming with a mix of excitement and trepidation. The Prometheus Array is designed to harness the power of our sun, converting it into a weapon capable of, well, theoretically, it could obliterate an entire fleet. Murmurs rippled through the room. General Ryanosuk frowned. And what happens to Earth if this thing misfires? Dr. Kadir swallowed hard. Best case? We lose a continent. Worst case? Earth becomes another asteroid belt. Christ, someone exclaimed. Eloan raised her hand for silence. I know it's a risk, but we're out of options and out of time. We have 2 days to get this operational, or we face extinction. Are we in agreement? One by one, the leaders nodded, some more reluctantly than others. Good, Eloan said, her voice steel. Because whether the Vorsith know it or not, they've just declared war on the wrong species. Humanity won't go down without a fight, and if we're going down, we're taking them with us. She looked around the room, meeting each person's gaze. Let's show these aliens the true meaning of war. Dismissed. As the room emptied, Eloan remained, staring at the holographic display of the Prometheus Array. She whispered to herself, 2 days to save humanity. No pressure, right? Little did she know, the next 48 hours would determine not just the fate of Earth, but the entire galaxy. The clock was ticking, and humanity's darkest hour had only just begun. The next 36 hours passed in a blur of frantic activity. Across the globe, humanity united in a way never before seen in its tumultuous history. At the Gagarin Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, Chief Engineer Yuri Volkov worked tirelessly, his calloused hands flying over holographic interfaces. Faster, he barked at his team. Every second counts. The massive Prometheus Array components, secretly manufactured over decades, were being loaded onto a fleet of next-generation shuttles. Each launch sent another piece of humanity's desperate gambit into orbit. Meanwhile, in the depths of CERN's particle accelerator, Dr. Amara Okafor led a team of physicists in a race against time. "We need more power," she shouted over the hum of machinery. "The gravitational compression won't stabilize otherwise." They were attempting to create an artificial singularity, the heart of the Prometheus Array's devastating weapon system. The risks were astronomical, but the alternative was extinction. In orbit, Colonel Takashi Tanaka coordinated the assembly efforts from the International Space Station. His voice crackled over the comms. "Watch that alignment. 1 degree off, and the whole array is useless." Space-suited figures swarmed over the growing structure, welding, calibrating, and praying. The array was taking shape, a massive artificial ring that dwarfed any previous human construction in space. Back on Earth, in the secure bunker beneath the Pentagon, Admiral Aloan Thrace hadn't slept in 30 hours. Her eyes were bloodshot, but her voice remained steady as she addressed the United Nations via holographic projection. "The Vorsith threat is real, and it's imminent. We need every nation to contribute. This is no longer about borders or ideologies. It's about the survival of our species." Across the planet, military installations were on high alert. Missile silos were primed. Fighter jets stood ready on aircraft carriers, and ground troops mobilized. It wasn't much against an interstellar armada, but humanity would use every weapon at its disposal. In Silicon Valley, a team led by the eccentric billionaire inventor Axel Crypt worked on cracking alien communication protocols. "It's like trying to decipher Sanskrit while riding a roller coaster," Axel muttered, his fingers flying over holographic keyboards. "But if we can intercept their transmissions, we might just have a chance." As the deadline approached, tensions rose to a fever pitch. Social media exploded with a mix of panic, defiance, and gallows humor. Hashtags like #HumanityUnited and #Vorsithis trended globally. In Times Square, a massive countdown clock ticked away the remaining hours. Similar displays appeared in cities worldwide, a constant reminder of humanity's impending judgment. With just 6 hours left, Admiral Thrace received a priority communication. Dr. Kadir's haggard face appeared on her screen. "Admiral, we've done it. The singularity is stable. Prometheus is online." Aloan let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. "Good work, Doctor. Now we pray it's enough." She turned to her assembled staff. "Send word to all commands. Operation Firestorm is a go. All military assets are to deploy to pre-designated positions. Civilian populations should proceed to shelters immediately." As her orders were relayed across the globe, Aloan allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. She thought of her family, safe, she hoped, in a bunker thousands of miles away. Of the billions of lives resting on her shoulders. Of the alien threat looming above their world. "Come on, you Vorsith bastards," she whispered. "Show us what you've got." In orbit, the Prometheus Array hummed to life, its massive solar collectors beginning to glow with captured stellar energy. On Earth, missile silos opened, fighters scrambled, and ground forces took up defensive positions. Humanity had done all it could to prepare. Now, as the deadline approached, they could only wait and hope. The final hours ticked away, each second feeling like an eternity. And then, as the global countdown reached 0, the sky lit up with a brilliance that outshone the sun. The Vorsith had arrived, and with their coming, the true test of humanity's resolve was about to begin. The Vorsith fleet materialized in Earth's orbit with a flash of exotic energy, their massive ships blotting out the stars. Sleek, crystalline vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They moved with an eerie silence that belied their immense size. Admiral Aloan Thrace's voice, tense but controlled, echoed through command centers worldwide. "All units, this is not a drill. Engage as planned. May whatever gods you believe in watch over us all." The response was immediate and fierce. From silos across the globe, intercontinental ballistic missiles streaked skyward, their nuclear payloads primed. Fighter squadrons scrambled, afterburners painting the sky with trails of fire. High above, Colonel Tanaka's voice crackled over the comms from the space station. Prometheus array is hot, charging at 15%, 30%. We need more time. The Vorsith, seemingly unimpressed by Earth's show of force, began their assault. Beams of coherent light lanced down from their ships, vaporizing entire cities in seconds. The death toll climbed into the millions within the first minute of combat. Dear God! Someone screamed in the Pentagon war room as holographic displays showed Buenos Aires vanishing in a flash of alien weaponry. Aloan gritted her teeth. Stay focused. We knew this would be ugly. Stick to the plan. Earth's missiles reached their targets, detonating in blinding flashes that would have annihilated any human fleet. When the glare faded, the Vorsith ships remained untouched, protected by shields of shimmering energy. Conventional weapons ineffective, came the panicked reports from fleet commanders worldwide. In orbit, a squad of space fighters led by Major Zarasyong engaged the smaller Vorsith craft. Those bastards are fast, Zara shouted as she barrel rolled to avoid a beam of energy that melted her wingmen into slag. But they bleed like anyone else. Her targeting computer locked onto a Vorsith fighter. She squeezed the trigger, unleashing a barrage of plasma bolts. The alien craft exploded in a satisfying fireball. Yeah, how do you like that, you overgrown lizards? But for every small victory, humanity suffered devastating losses. Moscow disappeared in a flash of light. Then Berlin. London burned as Vorsith ground troops, insectoid creatures in gleaming armor, began to land. In the skies over New Delhi, Wing Commander Arjun Patel led a desperate defense against a Vorsith capital ship. We can't even dent that thing, he yelled as another squadron was swatted from the sky. Where's our bloody superweapon? Back in the Pentagon, Aloan watched the holographic display with growing horror. Earth's forces were being decimated. The Prometheus array was their only hope, but it was charging agonizingly slowly. Status report, she barked. Dr. Kadir's voice came through, strained and staticky. 75% charged. But Admiral, we're detecting a massive energy buildup in the Vorsith fleet. I think they're preparing to glass the entire planet. Aloan's blood ran cold. This was it, the moment that would decide the fate of humanity. She keyed her global comm channel. All remaining forces, this is Admiral Thrace. Initiate Operation Valkyrie. I repeat, initiate Operation Valkyrie. Across the world, hidden bunkers burst open. Experimental mech suits, piloted by the best of the best, rocketed into the sky. Gigantic, humanoid war machines armed with weaponry reverse-engineered from crashed alien tech decades ago. Let's show these cosmic cockroaches what humans are made of, roared Colonel Kentaro Sato as his mech suit slammed into a Vorsith landing craft, ripping it apart with metal hands. In New York, Lieutenant Aisha Osman's mech unit engaged in street-to-street combat with Vorsith ground forces. They don't like it up close and personal, she shouted, her mech's fist crushing an alien tank. The mechs bought precious time, but it wasn't enough. The Vorsith capital ships moved into position, their main weapons powering up for a planet-killing strike. Prometheus at 95%. Dr. Kadir's voice was frantic. We need a few more minutes. We don't have a few more minutes. Aloan shot back, watching as the Vorsith weapons reached critical charge. Just then, a new voice cut through the chaos. Axel Crypt, the eccentric tech billionaire, his words tumbling out in a rush. I've cracked it. Their command frequencies. I'm broadcasting now. A piercing shriek filled the airwaves, causing Vorsith ships to list and tumble. Their coordinated attack faltered. Now, Aloan roared. Fire Prometheus. Fire everything. In orbit, the Prometheus array unleashed its fury. A beam of concentrated solar plasma, as bright as a newborn star, lanced out. It struck the Vorsith flagship, cutting through its shields like they weren't even there. The massive ship split in two, then exploded with the force of a supernova. The blast rippled through the Vorsith fleet, destroying some ships outright and crippling others. Earth's remaining forces pressed the attack, showing no mercy. As the battle raged, Eloan allowed herself a grim smile. They had bloodied the Vorsith nose, shown them that humanity wasn't going down without a fight. But as reports of devastation poured in from across the globe, she knew the war was far from over. This was just the beginning, and the cost would be beyond imagination. The real test of humanity's resolve was yet to come. The aftermath of Prometheus's devastating strike left Earth's skies choked with debris, a graveyard of shattered Vorsith ships and human sacrifices alike. But there was no time to mourn. The war had only just begun. Admiral Eloan Thrace stood before a holographic display of Earth, vast swathes of it now dark or burning. Her voice was hoarse as she addressed the remaining world leaders. "We've bloodied their nose, but make no mistake, the Vorsith will be back, and they'll be pissed." General Ryanosuk, his uniform singed and torn, spoke up. "The Prometheus array is fried. We won't get another shot like that." "Then we adapt," Eloan said, her eyes blazing with determination. "Humanity's greatest strength has always been our ability to improvise, to overcome. It's time we showed the galaxy what that really means." In the ruins of Geneva, Dr. Amara Okafor led a team scavenging Vorsith tech from a downed ship. "Careful with that plasma conduit," she shouted as they extracted a pulsing blue cylinder. This could be the key to cracking their FTL technology. Meanwhile, in the skies over what was once the Australian outback, Major Zura Seong put a captured Vorsith fighter through its paces. "Holy shit," she exclaimed as the craft responded to her thoughts, moving with impossible speed and agility. "We need to reverse engineer these neural interfaces ASAP." Across the globe, humanity's survivors rallied. Former enemies became allies, pooling resources and knowledge in a desperate bid for survival. Underground factories churn out hybrid weapons, melding Earth tech with salvaged alien components. In a Silicon Valley bunker, Axel Crypt worked feverishly to expand on his breakthrough. "If we can piggyback on their quantum entanglement network," he muttered, fingers flying over holographic keys, "we might be able to predict their next move before they make it." But the Vorsith weren't idle. 3 weeks after their initial defeat, they returned in force. This time, there was no ultimatum, no warning, just death from above. "Incoming!" The cry went up as new Vorsith ships, darker and more angular than before, appeared in Earth's orbit. They unleashed a barrage that made their previous attack look like a warm-up. Yet this time, humanity was ready. Colonel Kintaro Sato led a squadron of mech suits, now upgraded with Vorsith tech, in a daring assault on an enemy dreadnought. "Remember New Tokyo?" he roared as they tore into the massive ship's hull, their energy blades slicing through alien alloys. On the ground, Lieutenant Aisha Osman commanded a mixed force of human and reprogrammed Vorsith battle droids. "Push them back," she shouted, her voice carrying over the din of combat. "Every inch of Earth is ours, and we're taking it all back." In orbit, the hastily assembled Earth Defense Fleet engaged the Vorsith Armada. Ships cobbled together from terrestrial and alien tech fought with a ferocity that seemed to take the invaders by surprise. Admiral Thrace's voice crackled over the comms. "All units, execute Operation Hydra. Hit them from every angle. Don't let up." The battle raged for days. Earth cities, what remained of them, burned anew. Millions more perished. But slowly, inexorably, humanity began to turn the tide. Axel Crypt's predictive algorithms allowed Earth forces to anticipate Vorsith maneuvers. Dr. Okafor's breakthroughs in plasma weaponry gave human ships the punch they needed to penetrate enemy shields. And the sheer, bloody-minded determination of soldiers like Zara, Kintaro, and Aisha proved that humanity's spirit was far from broken. On the 6th day of relentless combat, something unprecedented happened. A Vorsith command ship, its hull breached and systems failing, broadcast on an open channel. "Enough! We yield. This madness must end." A stunned silence fell over the battlefield. Then, tentatively, cheers began to rise from Earth's forces. They'd done it. They'd forced the mighty Vorsith to call for a ceasefire. In the Pentagon war room, Admiral Thrace allowed herself a small smile. But as she looked at the strategic display, seeing the devastation wrought on both sides, she knew this was far from over. "Patch me through to the Vorsith Command ship," she ordered. As the alien commander's insectoid face appeared on screen, Eloan's eyes narrowed. "You started this war," she said, her voice cold as steel. "But we're going to finish it. On our terms." The Vorsith commander chittered nervously. What are your demands?" Eloan's reply was simple and chilling. Unconditional surrender. "And then? You're going to help us take the fight to the rest of your galactic confederation." They wanted to see humanity's true capacity for war? Well, they're about to get a front row seat. As the weight of her words sank in, Eloan realized that this wasn't just a turning point in the war. It was a turning point for humanity's place in the galaxy. The Vorsith had awakened a sleeping giant, and now the entire cosmos would feel its wrath. The war for Earth was over. The war for the galaxy had just begun. The Vorsith's surrender marked the beginning of a new era for humanity. No longer confined to their home planet, they now had the keys to the stars and a burning desire for retribution. Admiral Eloan Thrace stood on the bridge of the HSS Nemesis, Earth's first true interstellar warship. A fusion of human ingenuity and reverse-engineered Vorsith technology, it represented the pinnacle of humanity's rapid evolution into a spacefaring species. "Status report," she barked, her eyes fixed on the swirling vortex of FTL travel outside the viewscreen. Lieutenant Commander Raj Patel, his dark eyes gleaming with excitement, responded, "All systems nominal, Admiral. The Vorsith navigational data is holding up. We should be reaching the Centauri Nexus in T-minus 30 seconds." Eloan nodded, a grim smile playing on her lips. "Time to introduce ourselves to the neighborhood." The Nemesis burst into real space in a flash of exotic particles, followed closely by a fleet of Earth's finest. Before them lay the Centauri Nexus, a massive space station serving as a hub for a dozen alien species, all members of the Galactic Confederation that had sanctioned Earth's destruction. For a moment, there was stunned silence from the alien vessels surrounding the Nexus. Then all hell broke loose. "Incoming transmissions," shouted Communications Officer Yuki Tanaka. They're asking who we are and how we got here." Eloan's eyes narrowed. "Send them our reply. Let's see how they like a taste of their own medicine." Across the Nexus, alien diplomats and merchants watched in horror as their view screens filled with the image of a human, a species they had written off as primitive and doomed. Eloan's voice rang out, cold and clear. "This is Admiral Eloan Thrace of Earth. Your Confederation sought to exterminate us. You failed. Now, we're here to return the favor." She nodded to Weapons Officer Zara Siong, who had traded her fighter for a position on the Nemesis's bridge. "Light him up." The Nemesis's main cannon, a terrifying amalgamation of human nuclear technology and Vorsith plasma focusing, fired. A lance of pure destruction cut through space, slicing a Confederation dreadnought in two as if it were made of paper. "Holy shit!" Zara exclaimed, her eyes wide. That was even better than the simulations. As the Confederation ships scrambled to respond, Earth's fleet moved with practiced precision. Lessons learned in the desperate defense of their homeworld were now being applied on an interstellar scale. On a dozen worlds across the sector, humans who had been covertly inserted weeks earlier sprang into action. Operation Trojan Horse, Axel Kripp's brainchild, bore fruit as key Confederation installations suddenly found themselves sabotaged from within. Back on the Nemesis, Eloan watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. "Push forward," she ordered. "I want that Nexus under our control within the hour." As Earth's Marines, led by the now Colonel Aisha Osman, stormed the Nexus, a realization began to dawn on the Confederation forces. These humans fought like nothing they had ever encountered before. Where the Vorsith had been methodical, humans were unpredictable. Where other species might have sued for peace, humanity pressed their advantage relentlessly. It was as if centuries of pent-up aggression, honed by millennia of warfare amongst themselves, had finally found a worthy outlet. In the Nexus's main concourse, now scarred by weapon fire, and littered with alien bodies, Colonel Osmond planted Earth's flag. Her voice, transmitted across the entire station, was filled with fierce pride. The Centauri Nexus is now under human control. Any further resistance will be met with extreme prejudice. As news of the Nexus's fall spread across Confederation space, panic set in. Species that had once looked down on Earth as an insignificant backwater now trembled at the mention of humans. On distant Vortex Prime, capital of the Galactic Confederation, the High Council convened an emergency session. High Chancellor Zixix, his tentacles writhing in agitation, addressed the assembled representatives. "We have made a terrible mistake. These humans, they are unlike anything we have encountered in our 10,000 years of galactic governance. We thought to swat them aside like insects, but instead, we have awakened a force of nature." A Vorsith counselor, one of the few who had survived Earth's counterattack, chittered in agreement. "They do not fight like we do. They do not think like we do. Where we see battle as a means to an end, they seem to revel in it. It's as if conflict itself fuels them, makes them stronger." As the council debated frantically, human fleets were already on the move, guided by intel extracted from the Centauri Nexus and the broken Vorsith. Earth's forces struck at key Confederation worlds with shocking speed and brutality. Aboard the Nemesis, Admiral Thrace received reports of victory after victory. Yet there was no joy in her eyes, only a cold determination. She turned to her senior staff, her voice low but intense. "This is just the beginning. The Confederation thought they could judge us, condemn us for our warlike nature. Well, now they're going to see exactly what humanity is capable of when pushed to the brink. We won't stop until every world that sanctioned our destruction feels the same fear we felt. And then we'll reshape this galaxy in our image." As the Nemesis prepared to jump to its next target, Eloan looked out at the stars, no longer distant points of light, but future conquests. Humanity had been unleashed upon an unsuspecting galaxy, and nothing would ever be the same again. The age of human dominion had begun, forged in the fires of a war they hadn't started, but were determined to finish. As humanity's war machine rolled across the galaxy, leaving shattered worlds and broken civilizations in its wake, a creeping realization began to set in among Earth's leaders. Victory was coming at a terrible cost, not just to their enemies, but to humanity itself. Admiral Eloan Thrace stood on the observation deck of the HSS Nemesis, watching as the once majestic capital world of the Zintheri burned. The species had been among the most vocal supporters of Earth's annihilation. Now, they were little more than a footnote in humanity's bloody march across the stars. "Admiral," Lieutenant Commander Raj Patel's voice broke through her reverie. "We've received a priority communication from Earth. It's not good." Eloan's brow furrowed as she read the report. Civil unrest was spreading across human-controlled space. The euphoria of victory had given way to a grim reality. The war effort was consuming everything. Resources, lives, and worst of all, humanity's spirit. "Damn it," she swore, slamming her fist against the viewport. "This isn't what we fought for." On a dozen worlds, the story was the same. The relentless drive for vengeance that had propelled humanity to the stars was now threatening to tear them apart. In the ruins of New Paris, now a production center for warships, protesters clashed with military police. Their cries echoed through the streets. "We've had enough. End the war." Dr. Amara Okafor, once driven by the thrill of discovery, now looked at her latest weapon designs with horror. "What have we become?" she whispered, her lab coat stained with oil and blood. Even the indomitable Zura Siam, ace pilot turned fleet commander, felt the weight of their actions. After obliterating yet another Confederation stronghold, she sat in her quarters, staring at her reflection. "Are we the bad guys now?" she asked the empty room. Back on Earth, in the war-torn remnants of Washington, D.C., the United Earth government convened an emergency session. The chamber, once filled with hope and determination, now crackled with tension and despair. President Quan Chun, his face haggard from years of ceaseless conflict, addressed the assembly. "We started this war to survive, to prove our worth to a galaxy that had written us off. But at what cost? We're winning battles, but losing our humanity in the process. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room. The bloodlust that had driven them for so long was finally beginning to wane. Axel Crypt, the tech billionaire whose innovations have been crucial to the war effort, stood up. His usual manic energy was subdued. "I've been monitoring Confederation communications," he said, his voice uncharacteristically somber. "They're terrified of us. We've become the very monsters they accused us of being." The revelation hit like a physical blow. Humanity had set out to prove its worth, to carve out a place in the galaxy. Instead, they had become the terror of the cosmos, a force of destruction that threatened to consume everything in its path, including themselves. As the debate raged on Earth, Admiral Thrace made a decision. She keyed in a command on her personal console, initiating a top-secret protocol known only to her and a select few. "This ends now," she muttered. Across human-controlled space, warships suddenly found their weapons systems locked down. Production facilities ground to a halt. The great machine of war that humanity had built sputtered and stalled. Confused reports flooded in from all corners of the galaxy. But before chaos could take hold, every screen, every communications device lit up with Alohan's face. "People of Earth, citizens of our colonies, soldiers on the front lines, hear me," she began, her voice heavy with emotion. "We set out to save humanity, to secure our place among the stars. But in doing so, we risk losing the very thing that makes us human." She paused, taking a deep breath. "I am hereby ordering an immediate ceasefire. All offensive operations are to cease. It's time we remember why we fought in the first place. Not for vengeance, not for dominion, but for the right to exist, to thrive, to be part of something greater than ourselves." The reaction was immediate and intense. Some cheered, relief washing over them. Others raged, demanding the war continue until total victory was achieved. But as the hours passed, a strange calm settled over humanity's empire. On distant Vortex Prime, the Galactic Confederation's High Council watched in disbelief as the human war machine ground to a halt on the very edge of total victory. High Chancellor Zixix, his tentacles now gray with stress, addressed the council. Perhaps we judge them too hastily. These humans have shown us the depths of their ferocity. Yes, but now they show us something equally powerful: restraint. As news of the ceasefire spread, an uneasy quiet fell over the galaxy. Humanity stood at a crossroads. They had proven their strength, their resilience, their terrifying capacity for war. But now came the true test. Could they prove themselves worthy of peace? Admiral Alohan Thrace, the woman who had led humanity to the stars and to the brink of galactic dominion, now faced her greatest challenge. Not conquering new worlds, but healing the wounds of war, both those inflicted on others and on humanity's own soul. As she looked out at the stars once more, Alohan allowed herself a small, sad smile. "The war is over," she whispered. "Now comes the hard part." The price of victory had been high, perhaps too high, but in stepping back from the brink, humanity had shown that they were more than the sum of their conflicts. The galaxy watched and waited, wondering what this enigmatic species would do next. The age of war was ending. The age of reconciliation was about to begin. The ceasefire that Admiral Alohan Thrace had declared marked the beginning of a tumultuous period for both humanity and the galaxy at large. The once mighty Galactic Confederation lay in ruins, its member species reeling from humanity's onslaught. Earth and its colonies, despite their military victories, grappled with the moral and psychological toll of their actions. In the months that followed, an uneasy quiet settled over known space. Humanity's warships, once instruments of vengeance, now served as peacekeepers and aid distributors. The HSS Nemesis, flagship of Earth's fleet, became a symbol of this transformation as it delivered supplies to worlds ravaged by the conflict. On a neutral space station orbiting a gas giant in unclaimed territory, representatives from Earth and the remaining Confederation species gathered. The tension in the room was palpable as Admiral Thrace took her seat across from High Chancellor Zixix. "Let's be clear. Eloan began, her voice firm but not hostile. "We didn't come here to apologize. You tried to exterminate us, and we defended ourselves." Zixix's tentacles writhed nervously, and in doing so, nearly brought the galaxy to its knees. "Your species' capacity for violence is unsettling." A grim smile played on Eloan's lips. "Yet here we are, offering peace when we could have easily continued our campaign. That, Chancellor, is the true nature of humanity. We're capable of great destruction, yes, but also of mercy, of growth, of change." As the negotiations progressed, it became clear that the old galactic order was dead. In its place, a new system would need to arise, one that accounted for humanity's newfound power while safeguarding against future conflicts. Back on Earth, the process of healing had begun. Dr. Amara Okafor, haunted by her role in creating weapons of mass destruction, now led a team dedicated to adapting alien medical technology for human use. "We've seen enough death," she declared as she unveiled a revolutionary regeneration chamber. "It's time we focused on saving lives." Zara Xiong, the ace pilot turned fleet commander, found a new purpose training a mixed squadron of human and alien pilots. "We fought against each other," she told her diverse class. "Now we'll learn to fly together." Even Axel Crypt, the eccentric billionaire whose tech had been crucial in the war, turned his genius towards peaceful pursuits. His latest project, a galactic translation matrix to foster better understanding between species. "Can't kill what you can understand," he quipped, his fingers flying over holographic keys. "Well, you can, but it's a lot harder to justify." As months turned into years, the shape of the new galactic community began to emerge. Earth, once dismissed as a backwater, now stood as a major power. But it was a power tempered by the hard lessons of war. The Galactic Concord, as the new interstellar body came to be known, was founded on principles of mutual respect and shared progress. Species that had once looked down on humans now sought their counsel, eager to understand the race that had upended the cosmic status quo. Yet challenges remained. Hardliners on both sides resisted the new order. Terrorist attacks and attempted coups threatened the fragile peace. It fell to those who had seen the worst of the war to become the staunchest advocates for coexistence. 5 years after the ceasefire, Admiral Eloan Thrace stood before the inaugural assembly of the Galactic Concord. Representatives from 100 worlds, including many that had once sanctioned Earth's destruction, listened intently. "We gather here today not as conquerors or conquered," she began, her voice carrying across the chamber, "but as equals. Humanity's journey to the stars began in fire and blood, born of necessity and driven by a will to survive. But survival alone is not enough." She paused, her gaze sweeping the assembly. "We've proven what we're capable of in war. Now, we must prove ourselves in peace." The galaxy watched in horror as we unleashed our fury. Let them now watch in awe as we channel that same passion into building a future worthy of all our sacrifices. As Eloan's words echoed through the chamber, a sense of cautious hope filled the air. The road ahead would not be easy. Old wounds would take time to heal, trust would need to be rebuilt, and the specter of humanity's terrible power would not soon be forgotten. But for the first time since the Vorsith arrived in Earth's skies with their ultimatum, there was a genuine belief that a better future was possible. Humanity had faced extinction and emerged not just victorious, but transformed. They had shown the galaxy both the depths of their ferocity and the heights of their capacity for change. As the assembly erupted into applause, Eloan allowed herself a small, genuine smile. They had started this journey to prove humanity's worth to a hostile cosmos. In the end, they had proven something far more important to themselves. The age of isolation was over. The age of conflict had passed. Now, as equals among the stars, humanity and their former enemies would forge a new path together. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would they. In the vast tapestry of cosmic history, humanity's violent emergence onto the galactic stage would be remembered not as an end, but as a beginning. a crucible from which a new era of interstellar cooperation and understanding would arise. The stars, once a battlefield, now beckoned with the promise of endless possibilities. And humanity, tempered by war but driven by an indomitable spirit, stood ready to meet that promise. Not alone, but hand in hand with the very beings they had once fought. The true meaning of war, they had learned, was not in victory or defeat, but in the wisdom to know when to lay down arms and build something greater than oneself. And in that wisdom, humanity had finally found its place among the stars.